Combs was acquitted last week of the most serious counts against him, but convicted on 2 lesser charges.
Diddy was not at the top of the ring, okay? And it sounded like it was a Fed operation. And so it was a show trial because the feds are never going to reveal the feds that are in control of an operation.
They think like it was a shakedown. I'm like, when are we going to have conversations about how Diddy gave this system something to shake? Okay.
Oh, that's a Rico. That's a Freako. He got a fucking Freako.
Going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. Cause we can't be stopped now. Cause we bad boys for life. Yeah. We're doing this today. I just want to manage expectations. This episode is going to be a sort of exploration into the case, how we got to the case and what it says about society. If you've watched anything I've done before, you'd probably understand that's kind of my thing, my shtick, as they like to say. As they like to say. So if you're looking for a detailed case, I'll put links, I'll put clips, I'll put things there that details it better than me. Trap Lil Ross, but the channel you're looking for is Trap More Ross. He's someone that covers the background in more depth. Mine is more of a broad brush of what I'm doing, of what the case was, I should say. So I just want to manage that. But without further ado, we're gonna explore, we're gonna go into a big picture point of view and try to analyze how the hell did we get here. So without further ado, let's explore.
Sean Diddy Combs files another request to get out of jail. His attorney citing new evidence they claim will reveal the prosecution's case.
Lawyers are making a bombshell allegation. They say this video of him beating ex-girlfriend Cassie was leaked by the Department of Homeland Security.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent.
I know y'all take it like, well, that was hardcore. That's cool. But that is the game you in. I am sorry, that is the game you decided to get in.
Okay. Guys, quick piece of admin before we go into the episode and really dive into it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe in order for the channel to grow. It's going to need your support. It's going to need your assistance. There's no way around it. All I'm asking is for a like. If you've got something to say, something, whether that's negative, positive, I don't mind. Just put it into the comment section. It's engagement. I don't even care. I do not care if it's negative. All right. Put it into the comment section. And if you really are enjoying it, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on an episode. But I don't like talking about admin too long. Let's get into the episode. So how did we get to a place where Diddy was found not guilty on 3 counts? One being trafficking is the major headline. The other 2 are trafficking. One against Cassie, the other one Jane Doe. If you didn't know, Jane Doe is an anonymous name to protect the said victim in this department. How did we get here? How did we get here? There's a number of reasons. People think I blab on for too long, so I'm gonna just hit the nail on the head and we go into the details. But I think racketeering here, the definition of racketeering was extended for Diddy. It was extended and expanded for him to fit his particular case. And I think the jury just didn't see it naturally fitting. There's many components of racketeering that are atypical to what happened here. And the biggest part is when we think of racketeering, you think of mobsters, you think of Castanado, not Castanado, you think of Frank Lucas, you think of Michael Francis, you think of people like this, not necessarily Diddy and freak-offs. But there is something to it which was missed in the overall discussion. And I do think the prosecution missed some key details in trying to fit him into the racketeering case, but we're going to explore that into more detail later. Also, there's a complex relationship with coercion, abusive relationship, and psychological manipulation. Let's call it what it is. I think people struggle with understanding what psychological manipulation is, especially when they've seen consent. How do you navigate that and psychological control when what you've seen with your naked eyes is consent. But however, the behavior and the psychological patterns will say there's consent, but it doesn't mean that they are actually consciously consenting. Perhaps it's manipulation of consent. It's difficult to prove, especially in the case of Cassie and in Jane Doe's too. I do think the case from a cultural standpoint as well, it really to me highlighted a dark part of society where everyone was focused on who's next. And one of the big things I was saying to friends and people around was, everyone's so focused on the babe or ill, who's next, and gay jokes, that they missed that we are watching a power abuser. We are watching a system, an industry in the music industry and Hollywood at large that at the very least enabled this behavior, and perhaps at the worst and at the very worst, this helped facilitate this behavior in some examples, or boost it up. Depends on how you want to look at it. But my genuine opinion is that we as a society, I get the jokes, I got no problem with the jokes, some of the jokes are hilarious, but we lost our way in the jokes and forgot what this case is really about. And it's about the victims, the real lives, and the people that were exploited, and culture, and how culture creates monsters like Diddy. And not only creates them, but emboldens them, and we miss that. But the truest question is, how did we get here?
Intimidated by youth, you know what I'm saying? He knows the importance of leaving a legacy behind. Because we need more adults out there that's gonna teach the young, such as myself, and you know, basically leave a legacy behind, leave something behind, you know.
See, Diddy was born the 4th of November, 1969. Guy Fawkes night. Is that Guy Fawkes night? Or is it the 5th of November? Anyway, I find it quite amusing that he's born on the year 69. I know, I just made a whole thing about jokes, but come on. Am I the only? I feel like the only content creator that clocked that. That ain't funny to you guys. Anyway, without further ado, he was born in 1969 to I would say a middle-class family, but his father had ties to Frank Lucas.
Me and Melvin Cohen were good friends. We were good friends. We did a lot of business together. Of course, it was not a legal business, but we did a lot of business together. And I was sorry to see what happened to him. That shocked the hell out of me. And the guy who did it, I'm glad he got what he got. Okay, so.
And I know Melvin used to come to your club, the turntable, a lot.
Yes, he did. He come there all the time. Melvin was like a lady man. He come there all the time. He come to my club all the time. Yes, he did.
Unfortunately, his father died very young. That put his mum in a place where she was working 3 jobs. The reason I mentioned this, because I said it's not going to be a detailed account like some of my contemporaries that have spoke about it, but I just wanted to mention that because perhaps that gets us to understand his father's background and that idolizing of not just mobsters, but power and wealth, but his mum working so much, having 3 jobs, and it is rumored, and it's just a rumor. I don't like discussing rumors too much because sometimes I think they're playing the stereotypes, but his mum was rumored to be a lady of the night when she needed to be. She had 2 kids, him and his sister. And perhaps that seeing his parents and his mum have to work so hard made him obsessed with money. Money was something in his world that was so lacking as a child that he felt as if he, without it, was worthless.
Who's your biggest inspiration? My biggest inspiration is my mother.
Diddy attended a private Catholic school. It was a prestigious Catholic school until an incident involving the head teacher really displayed some of the darkest aspects of his past.
Because in 1988, just 1 year after Diddy graduated from Mount St. Michael Academy, the principal and chaplain of the school were both indicted for in a case prepared by the NYPD and the FBI. They determined that at least 3 14-year-old boys had been molested. Timothy Brady, the school's principal, was sentenced to prison, although he was never removed from his position in the Catholic Brotherhood that operated the school. And despite the overwhelming evidence against the school officials, with charges being brought by the literal FBI, only one student was willing to speak out publicly, and so no trial was ever held. The principal, Timothy Brady, later moved to Chicago and worked at a different Catholic school for boys over there. While there isn't a directly known link between the traumatic predatory events at Mount St. Michael Academy and Sean Combs himself, sexual abuse by Catholic priests is a known, widespread issue that casts a long shadow over the reputation of the church, even though studies and information are limited, with many Catholic brotherhoods refusing to grant transparency to outsiders. But we know from extensive research that there's a cycle of sexual abuse, positive correlation between being a victim and later becoming a perpetrator. In many ways, our childhoods shape our adulthoods, and with Diddy attending a school that was later found to have abusers at the top of its leadership and being an altar boy for many years, the monstrous evil choices and behaviors that later defined his life could be a hint at a dark, unresolved trauma from his past.
The reason I mention that here is just to say that there seems to be with Diddy in his earlier life some correlation with power abusers, specifically older white men, and Diddy. Whether it's his head teachers or later on Clive Davis, where he seems to be around people who abuse their powers, allegedly, especially with Clive Davis. And I just bring that to say perhaps this is a learnt behavior. Sometimes when people see sociopaths, they presume, and he is a sociopath, no way else to put it. People presume it just came out of nowhere. Some people are just born bad, and it's very rarely is that the case. Perhaps this behavior was learned in his Catholic school. Perhaps. I'm just speculating. I don't know. But this should tell you something to do with his past. But on top of that as well, Diddy, when he left the school, there was no incidents, there was no claims. But when he left the school, he went to Howard University, and it became very, very clear, even from his time at high school, that he had a thing for the performing arts. And at Howard University, he started coordinating events, started running his own events, and very quickly he found himself working for Atlantic Records, where he started to put on shows and events. And it was around the time where Magic Johnson was diagnosed with HIV. He put on an event to kind of fundraise and build awareness for this, where he had the Apollo Theater incident.
Museum of the City College of New York, located in Harlem, which at the time had a capacity for about 2,700 people. For the event, Diddy would authorize the printing of 2,000 tickets to be sold in advance, which according to the flyer for the event could be purchased at 2 locations. A clothing store called Boss Emporium, which was owned by infamous Harlem drug kingpin Kevin Childs, and the famous Apollo Theater in the heart of Harlem. Now the first problem would arise from the fact that Diddy had seemingly added the Apollo Theater as a purchase location without first asking the theater. They would apparently decline the offer, as it was in fact owned by a company that was a competitor of the Kiss FM radio station, whom Diddy had retained in order to advertise the event. This relatively minor plunder would become exemplary of the rather nonchalant and negligent attitude that the organizers as a whole seemingly had towards this event. Another such example being the fact that Diddy would later admit that he had not read in depth the promotion contract that he had actually signed, and wasn't seemingly aware that he was actually in charge of buying insurance for the event, or the fact that there was seemingly no organization to whom part of the proceeds would be donated to, as the organization that was mentioned on the event's flyer could not legally accept this kind of donation, nor had they even allegedly been asked if such a donation would be possible. There was also seemingly confusion amongst the different parties as to who would be in charge of the security and how many guards would be attending the event, the actual number in the end being seriously undersized in relation to the size of the crowd that would turn up. On the day of the planned celebrity game, crowds would begin forming already several hours before the start of the event, which would actually surprise the security personnel who weren't expecting so many people. The gathering crowds would be split into 2 lines, those who had already bought tickets in advance and those who were looking to buy tickets from the gate. And at first, things appeared to be going smoothly despite the number of people looking to gain entrance to the gym being much larger than what the organizers expected, and in fact, much larger than what the gym's maximum capacity even was.
This was the first sign of Diddy's ambition, Diddy's ruthlessness into making a statement, making a name. It was one of his great talents, was hosting, putting on events. But also it showed his recklessness at the time. There was no fire marshals, there was no correct health and safety, which led to the overcrowding. Not directly his fault, but he was somewhat negligent in his doing the due diligence to avoid that happening.
I did a walk around, so I walked around the top of the floor, went down the steps and went in the gym, and then came across the gym, and I seen that you can go up the steps and be right there at the front door. Everybody was coming in. You seen Dougie Fresh, Red Alert, they was on the mic. People started coming in and everything, it was cool. And then when LL Cool J and Mike Tyson showed up, that must have went pandemonium.
But that's not where we really shoot him in the foot for. Where Diddy loses compassion for this era is how he spoke about it after, talking about the lives that he saw around, having to save lives.
And apparently Diddy himself would actually manage to open one of these doors and would begin to pull incapacitated people onto the gym floor. Diddy would later apparently describe some of these events to a reporter, explaining that he had to overcome his initial revulsion towards a passed out man with vomit in his mouth. Diddy would apparently wipe the vomit away and begin to administer CPR, saying how he felt the person's death going inside of him. In the end, this tragic event would result in 9 people losing their lives and 29 people getting injured.
When you look into it, Diddy wasn't really there. He did his best to save himself and leave, which to me is first example of sociopathic behavior. Now, some people may say it was ego protection. He was trying to pull out a PR stunt. People died for real. And he's out here pretending as if he was saving lives, making it about himself. One could forgive if this was an isolated incident. However, it happened far too often with Diddy.
I don't think people realize like how young we were, you know, so we're actually like kids in this multi-billion-dollar industry. You know, 2 young men that really had a chemistry, really got along, and were just really enjoying.
There was a genuine connection there, a genuine care.
It's all good.
See, Diddy worked as an A&R at Atlantic Records, and he was pretty good. He had a good ear for talent, a great ear for commercial beats, and he could make some. He was good at finding out a sample and making it stick to the public. But he discovered a megastar in Biggie Smalls. But at the time, Atlantic Records was a bit more fun, was a bit more, I guess the term is safe. So Diddy wanted something a bit more edgy. He wanted to go out on his own, and he met Clive Davis. Well, Clive Davis knew him actually, he didn't meet him. And Clive Davis believed in his dream. Some allege that Clive Davis was actually just trying to ensure, kind of hedging his bets against, with seeing the potential with Biggie and hedging his bets in that way. But he gave him 50 million to start up Bad Boy Records, and Diddy, or Puff Daddy at the time, I would say that's where the megastar of Puffy was created actually. See, you're probably wondering, how did this A&R producer get to the front line? With Kanye, he became a rapper. Pharrell was also rapping. Diddy did rap. But before you heard him rap, you knew who he was. And it's because Biggie Smalls himself, although having a very charismatic personality, having very charismatic bars, lyrics, and flow, he himself in interview was a little bit dry-witted. Let's be real, he's not traditionally handsome. Let's keep it a band. I know it's a pause, but let's keep it real. Diddy was sort of his Paul Heyman, his manager that would go on the mic and spit for him. And he is very charismatic, very well spoken. And he sold not only Biggie, but he sold himself. Again, another example of his sort of, I want to say, obsession with the limelight and obsession with power. Now, if you know anything about the history of Biggie Smalls, Diddy, many accuse him of not only the death of Tupac, but the death of Biggie too. Now, I don't fall into that crowd. I think it's a bit too difficult to say, but what I will say definitively in support of those people is that the way he behaved after.
What do you tell the little kids that held up the sign during Biggie's funeral that said, "Stop the violence from the future stars of tomorrow"? Do you feel responsible for ensuring that they even have a future?
I definitely feel responsible. I have to take responsibility, just like any young man or woman that's living on this earth, or any young man or woman, period. We all have to take our responsibility, and we have to handle it. And whatever I could do, from the raising of my kids, whatever I could do through my music, I definitely have to read that sign. I definitely have to take that message inside my heart.
Making it about himself. There was supposed to be a cover for a magazine that was supposed to have Biggie, where he alleged said Biggie's dead. I should be the cover. He then wrote an album about it. And everything he said about the album, it didn't correlate. And everything good about the album was about Biggie and how he's rose to fame since then. I understand the conspiracies. I don't know. We never will know. But I understand the conspiracies. And I bring this up is because Bad Boy Entertainment really is where you see Diddy's bad side. So many people have left Diddy. Pretty much everyone. And they've all spoken about poor contracts, which is a big part of the coercive control that he holds over people and Cassie herself.
Me and Puff was like, I felt like I did more than I got credit for, more than I got paid for.
You felt or did you do that? Because you said felt, like
okay,
feeling.
let's clear that up then.
You saying you feeling that?
No, we're gonna keep it with, because I'm trying to be nice. I never got paid what I was worth, and I never got the respect I was worth. So the disdain that I got for Puff is more like, you trying to keep me here, nigga. I'm not here. All my peers is up here. All my peers are bosses. When it's time, just like somebody raised somebody up, you know they did work with you, they go from your little man to maybe A&R to something else. He just kept trying to keep me right here, like he didn't want me to grow at anything. The records, the beats, you ain't getting the money, you ain't getting the publishing, you ain't getting the respect. And I don't think you're like that.
No.
So that became really frustrating for me because I'm looking.
You don't think you like that with that?
Man, I don't think you like that, to be pulling what you pulling.
Yeah, you from the ghetto, you like.
Yeah, like you know what would come with doing that. But everybody is letting you get away with it. Everybody. So me quitting after one album, it didn't take long for me to figure it out. Like, I'm not gonna be here with this. I don't care who's here because you're not paying me and you're not respecting me.
Now this is important to say, you also have Shine, who was a rapper at the time in the early 2000s and late 90s, who was involved in an incident, a shooting incident where Diddy was with J-Lo, and he claims that he took the fall for that incident when it was really Diddy.
Not that they didn't just clear him, they lied. Because even today, I'm still not saying anything to get him in trouble.
Right, you said you didn't see the shooting.
Right?
You didn't see the gun.
But the victim says Puff shot her. Everything that I'm saying now, I've been saying. It doesn't mean that I didn't forgive Diddy and move on.
Now many people have corroborated, the witness herself, Natalia Rubin, has corroborated that the person that shot at her was Diddy. The incident really occurred, if you can tell from the clips, I'll just make it clear, that it came from someone throwing something at Diddy, Diddy reacting, a tussle turned out, and 3 people were shot. Natalia Rubin was the person claiming to be shot in the face. She's the one that also cooperated with Shane that it was Diddy. He faced 10 years in prison and had to be extradited. He's now a politician and has forgiven Diddy, but has mentioned many a times that what's coming to light is nothing but true. Diddy's former bodyguard has claimed about Diddy's crazy behaviors. So many people, Mace himself has spoke about Diddy and his behaviors. Cameron has made jokes about things that he saw at Diddy's crib.
Puff had a brownstone, I believe, on 35th Street and like Park Avenue between, it's some brownstones down there, I believe 35th or 36th, and Mace was staying there. And I went to go meet him down there one day so we could bust a move. This is when he just signed with Bad Boy. He didn't even have an album out yet. He was just getting signed. And I went to use the bathroom and it was a dildo on the bathroom sink. And when I came out, I asked him what's about. He like, that's homeboy's joint. You know, I don't know what it's about. He always have girls over here, but I don't know. I said, well, this one your sink, this is your bathroom, you're using this bathroom. I don't know where his bathroom at, you know what I'm saying? So, and that's word to my son, cause stop breathing, I swear to God.
These things shouldn't be ignored. I'm doing this and I'm spending so much time on this to build the character of Diddy. So you don't understand who Diddy was and how he got here. That he wasn't just, and a lot of people are trying to paint it, especially Dr. Umar, he wasn't just this black man with a bit of power with a freaky fetish that just woke up here. Diddy's a power abuser. Diddy is an abuser of not only his power, his resources, but his image too. And he will do anything to smite and keep people down who dare to square up to his face.
The word is born. If my cheesecake is in the least bit soft or brittle or not on point, your will go back.
Somebody gonna quit. Somebody ain't got the heart, the stamina to be bad boy. Somebody ain't got the passion, the drive, the intensity to want it. Somebody's mental capacity breaks at a certain point. I need to see it now. I want to see it when I'm 2 million in.
That example from Making the Band isn't just TV. It is a window into his true personality. It's not just, you can tell it's not just for TV. The contempt on his face, the relentlessness in his spirit when he's speaking to Freddie.
Oh, hey, what's poppin'? What's going on?
We want to talk to you for a minute, like on the real.
Yeah, man, ain't even on the real. I mean, if y'all don't want to go, y'all go home. Y'all go home right now. Whoever don't want to go, go home.
I mean, none of us really want to go.
Okay, y'all go home, man.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Respect.
All right.
Respect that.
Y'all gotta do what y'all gotta do. All right.
Respect the team, though.
All right. It's like nothing you've ever seen. He's gone on to speak about how Diddy treated him.
It was on some shit like one day I woke up, I was in the mood. I'm in the studio, I'm snapping, whatever. I don't want to be with it. You know, when you around a bunch of goofies, you a street nigga. Sometimes you don't want to be around the nerds. Sometimes the nerds irritate you. So I'm in that bitch. I'm just frustrated with a lot of shit that's going on. Anyway, we get in a situation. We in front of everybody. Nigga like he was like, man, money, man, what you think, you bad or something? He was like, nigga, I'll buy every house on your block. Shut every light off on that bitch, and when you come out, every time you come out that bitch, you'll get popped. So when another nigga tell you some shit like that, you like, get your animated ass out of here, goofy ass. You feel what I'm saying? When he tell you some shit like that, you go to picture him purchasing every house. You go to picturing every light on the block going on. And that shit silenced me. And for you to make that, people ask why I left the band. Like, that's why I left the band. Like, that's why I didn't do Dave Chappelle. Like,
now at some point, we have to ask ourselves, and especially with this case, all of this couldn't be a lie.
You gotta realize, man, Kim's death wasn't even investigated, bro. Her death wasn't even investigated. And it should have been a proper investigation so all the family members can feel like that there was no foul play in her death. How is it that you know how we are as a people? I don't believe that 10% of your viewers that's watching this don't keep their phone when they go to sleep in arm reach. How is it that there was no electronic products or gadgets around Kim's bed? Her laptop missing, her cell phone's missing. Everything is missing that she could get in touch with her little girls if they not at home or her friends or family. All that's missing. How is it that, and this is hearsay, that the detectives did not even view the body in the bed where she died at? That the coroner had already removed her, pronounced her dead, and told the detectives that it was no foul play. And if that is true, as I've heard it, and we've read certain things on the internet about it, that case need to be reopened.
You have the alleged rumors of Kim Porter and her mysterious death under pneumonia. She's someone that was very healthy. She lived a lifestyle which would have afforded her a life that could have potentially avoided or cured pneumonia. I often think death creates a lot of questions. I don't want to question him. He seemed to have contrition after she passed. Sadness, not even contrition, sorry. Just sadness and sorrow. The only few times I can sense anything genuine, but the conspiracies are there, so it's important to cover it. But it's really Cassie and his relationship with Cassie where you see the true diddler.
He's proud of us at the end of the day.
Oh,
it's work.
The actor talked to Puff.
Yes.
So
I
didn't
know you call him Puff. Yeah, Puff, Sean. Yeah. I think everybody has their different names.
Well, he seems like a good guy. I met him once when he was selling.
Was accused in a lawsuit Thursday of subjecting R&B singer Cassie to a years-long relationship that included beatings and rape. Cassie, whose legal name is Cassandra Ventura, alleged in the suit that Combs brought her into his fast-paced and drug-fueled lifestyle not long after she met him and signed to his label when she was 19 and he was 37 in 2005. Combs' attorney denied the allegations. Ventura said that after years in silence and darkness, she is ready to tell her story.
As you know by now, and I'm going to do it as quickly as possible because I spent quite a long time at the beginning, but she claimed physical, emotional, and at the end, sexual, coercive control of not only what she wore, where she went, but also who she was around. She was signed to a 10-album deal, only released one, which is a red flag. She herself has said in statements that she felt pressured to be in a relationship for her career, which I believe is a genuine hallmark of how Hollywood, the music industry, operate. If all this is true, you've seen all this evidence about him, his behaviors. How did he beat this case? How did we get here where Diddy beat this case?
Found partially guilty in his federal criminal trial.
The jury finding him not guilty of the most serious charge, racketeering conspiracy.
Money. They wasted a lot of time and they lost.
And it's important to say this. It really comes down to this one factor, and that's racketeering. When you think of racketeering, you think of mobsters. Now I'm going to put a clip here, someone defining racketeering as simply as possible.
RICO basically makes it a crime to have a crime business. So I can go rob a bank, that's a crime. You and I could agree to go rob a bank, that's a conspiracy. We give an extra penalty to this. But suppose we agree that for the next 20 years we're going to rob 5 banks a year. Now we've established a RICO enterprise. We've established an informal business to commit crime. Now, what does that allow you to do? It allows you to put them in prison for a lot longer. But the most important thing it allows you to do is to seize their property. And the biggest problem with the mafia now was, for a long time, Hoover ignored it. Then they started prosecuting it. But all they were doing was helping the line of succession. They'd take number 1 out, they'd take number 2 out, there'd be a little gang war, and somebody else would take over the multi-billion-dollar business. Because nobody affected the numbers rackets, the fixing of boxing matches, the skim from Las Vegas, the drug trade. Nobody did anything about that.
Think about racketeering like this. Racketeer is essentially when you are in the business of illicit work, illegal work. Diddy wasn't directly in the business. Diddy, when he wanted drugs, allegedly, it was for himself. Well, it's not alleged but it was for himself and parties. It was personal use. The S workers, personal use. All this is personal use. Now, I believe what the feds, FBI, and they rarely fail, guys, they win on 99% of their cases. 90% of federal cases, when you're going against the government, 90% of people don't even take it to trial, because that's how overwhelming it is. Diddy is a 1%er. He has the wealth, the ego to go against the government. He thought he was above the government. So that's important to say, that when you're dealing with celebrities, they're often the outliers.
Then y'all gonna let him throw dirt on the God's name?
I think what the feds saw, the government saw, is that Diddy was the enterprise himself, and his behavior, his coercion, and his psychological control, his power and image essentially, and wealth, made people feel as if they had to participate in this behavior to be a part of the business. The problem is, when you're dealing with racketeering, there's often other people involved, other people helping to facilitate this industry. And when you look at the Lil Rod case, where he complained about, complained is the wrong word again, where he accused Diddy of not only bad working environments, but SA abuse.
One of the most disturbing lawsuits came from Rodney Lil Rod Jones, a Grammy-nominated producer who worked closely with Diddy for 14 months, producing 9 songs for his album Off the Grid. In a lawsuit he filed in February of 2024, he claimed to have evidence of the following: Meek Mill on Diddy's yacht consorting with underage individuals, Diddy giving laced drinks to underage individuals at his home, and Usher in Diddy's home consorting with underage individuals. There was also a long list of things Diddy did to abuse Rodney, throughout a long process of trying to convince him that he would make sure he would win Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he agreed to engage in homosexuality with him. In the lawsuit, it's written like this. Throughout his time living with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones was the victim of constant, unsolicited, unauthorized groping and touching of his body parts by Mr. Combs. These events took place in Los Angeles, New York, Florida, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. In addition to the unsolicited and unauthorized touching, Mr. Jones was forced by Mr. Combs to work in Mr. Combs' bathroom as Mr. Combs walked around naked and showered in a clear glass enclosure. As a heterosexual Christian man, Mr. Jones was uncomfortable with Mr. Combs' advances and expressed his discomfort to Mr. Combs' chief of staff, who responded with, "You know, Sean will be Sean." The chief of staff also attempted to downplay Mr. Combs' groping of Mr. Jones as friendly horseplay, stating that those acts were his way of showing that he likes you. There was a lot more. The lawsuit is 73 pages long. It even includes photographic evidence of Cuba Gooding Jr. forcing himself on Rodney Jones, something that he has a long and public history of doing. The suit also includes graphic details about Christina Coram, Diddy's long-running chief of staff, describing her as equivalent to Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's former assistant who was convicted of sex trafficking and is now serving 20 years in prison. The lawsuit says this about Christina Coram. It was important to defendant Coram to have Mr. Combs' drug of choice immediately ready whenever he asks for it. Defendant Coram required all employees from the butler to the chef to the housekeepers to walk around with a pouch filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana, and Tusi. Defendant Coram also ordered sex workers and prostitutes for Mr. Combs.
He also went further to name people that helped facilitate this lifestyle, whether that be Stevie J, who he called his groomer, and Diddy used his admiration for Stevie J as a way to control him and bring him into his, I would go as far as to say, cult of celebrity. Young Miami, she was also alleged to be a drug mule, I should say, and also a paid worker. And I'm just gonna say this to you guys, all you city girl lovers out there, I get it, the music's fun, it's turnt, but if you listen to her music and you listen to some of the things that were said in this case, it doesn't sound far-fetched. So she's either got some self-work to look at, or this guy's a flaming liar. I don't know if I'm gonna go as far as calling him a flaming liar, but boy, it looked complicit. He also alleges that her cousin essayed him in the toilet and he had to push her off. He also names Justin Combs, Diddy's son, as recruiting S-workers and underage girls as well. Other people part of his entourage who helped logistics for guns and payments. There was also Jade Ramsey, Dathan Joy, paid sex workers as well. Christina Coram, who was also looked at as the logistics, the person who coordinated everything, find the hotels, find the drugs, find the women as well. That is sort of more in line with racketeering. I think because the feds couldn't quite prove that, they struggled to genuinely knuckle him down to racketeering, but they knew he was racketeering and thought if they could put a compelling case against him, that could get him over the line. But the problem with that is that you had to explicitly find all these people involved as well, and perhaps there was just not enough evidence. Again, they went to his house and found freak-off videos and baby oil, not quite enough to pin him down to racketeering.
To Sean Combs, because she wanted access to the fame.
Exactly.
There is no getting around it. Was there manipulation? Yes. I'll even give you a 50-50 split if you want, Loon. But anybody who tries to tell me, Dr. Umar, Cassie's experience with Sean Puffy Combs was 100% outside of her realm of control and exclusively due to his manipulation and brainwash, hell no, you get no vote from me.
Yeah.
Boy beat the case. He beat the case. He beat the case. He beat the case. He might even come home today. Time served, man. Time served. All you Cassie, Jane Doe, it's a wrap for y'all. That shit is over. And they should, I wish this judge could have dismissed all them civil suits too. All y'all niggas, go back to being broke. It's okay. Give this nigga back his baby oil and let him go have his Astro Glide. Let that man go back to the pre-freak office crazy chat. I might have to put in an RSVP. I ain't even going to y'all chat. I might have to RSVP chat. I might have to be the next one chat. This 2 out of... Also, I spoke about this earlier in the video, and it's got to be said, listen, misogyny did play a part. And why I say misogyny played a part is it's not, I'm not like a super duper feminist here, but you have to look at it from a jury's point of view, and some of you may even disagree with me here.
But if you've seen a video of someone in a freak-off seeming to be enjoying herself, and one of the members of, well, someone who was involved in the freak-off said that they both came, the Punisher.
At any point, did you feel that Cassie was being forced to do this, that this was being done against her will, that, you know, she was suffering through these situations, or was she honestly enjoying it? I mean, as men, we know when a woman is enjoying being with us as opposed to, like, they're not really into us.
Yeah, so the answer to both questions is actually no. I didn't feel her that she was distressed in any way, but as much as my ego wants to say, yeah, she was feeling me, she was loving it or whatever, it was clear she's doing it for her man. But not from a point of, I never got, he's making me do it, right? I got, this is what he likes, this is what turns him on, I'm gonna hold my man down.
He said that they both enjoyed it. That it's hard to, when you've seen that video, you've seen messages where she says, I love freak-offs when we both want them. Although that hints at coercive control, I think it's difficult for a jury to understand the depths of psychological abuse in relationships. It's something that the public are not fully comfortable with yet. They don't fully understand the depths of psychological control. And also, when does personal autonomy come into it? When you've seen these videos, when you've seen these texts, it creates too much of a gray area for him to be put down for trafficking.
We're looking at it from like one side, and it was definitely riveting and eye-opening.
What did you see on the videos? You know, the press wasn't able to see it in real time.
Yeah. No, I mean, they were showing some of the, well, I mean, there was both the freak-offs and hotel nights, as they were called, from both of them. But it was...
What were they showing those videos?
They showed, well, again, you know, the defense and the prosecution showed different clips, so they were very selective. Like the prosecution was showing more, you know, just Cassie just sitting around.
The defense showed that?
The defense showed that, yeah.
Just her sitting around not engaging in sexual activity?
Yes.
The prosecution, when you had to have your headphones on and otherwise, what were you seeing then?
There was sexual activity, but I mean, it wasn't really,
was it force?
No, it didn't seem forced. It was actually like pretty tame.
Really?
Especially with Cassie, but also with Jane Doe, who fits the same mold. There's a clear line that we have where we believe in ideal victims. It's a term used in psychology and criminology. Ideal victims is the traditional victim, weak, someone who's incapable of defending themselves, someone who completely followed literally the letter of the law, fought them off, screamed no, was defenseless. And Cassie wasn't quite that. She was someone that got wealth from it. She got status from it. She's someone that seen in video enjoying things that she later said she never really wanted to participate in. I can understand where the jury's coming from. The contempt that comes from people like DJ Academics, who's not a DJ, by the way.
Boy beat the case. He beat the case. He beat the case. He beat the case. He might even come home today. Time served, man. Time served. All you Cassie, Jane Doe, it's a wrap for y'all.
It makes me kind of sick, but there is a lack of understanding. DJ Vlad said it as well. This is a domestic suit, mentioned the wealth that she got. You can see the contempt from people, and I do believe the jury saw that too. It's just a reality. It was difficult to see that and prove that that was trafficking. Although people don't want to have the conversation about his image, his wealth, and how much of a big role that actually played in him controlling these people. People kind of just see the stuff they got. And ultimately, it's very important to say this, the law protects the wealthy. Look at all the cases. Look at all the cases. If you look at the history of law throughout the Western world, the law protects the wealthy. It really protects the land, but it protects the wealthy. And Diddy had the wealth to protect himself and go against it. Wealth will make you the 1% of people that beat the 99% of cases. He was that 1%. He had everything he needed to. The law, unfortunately, is still not very well versed at taking down big and powerful men. Pause. It is important to say is that some of the witnesses were weak. They were just weak.
You know, it was a tough charge to prove when the witnesses coming out saying, yeah, I wanted to do it. You know, and it was both witnesses. I think the other one's name, I forget her name, but the two ladies that testified against him said the same thing. So it was very tough.
They were just not strong witnesses. Their cases were a little bit flimsy, and the prosecution didn't do enough and their due diligence in fully looking at the scope of what Diddy did. As one lawyer put it, he was sort of overcharged in that sense. So some of you are probably wondering, what was this all about then? What was the point? We failed and another tyrant gets to run free. Well, I don't think Diddy will ever be the same. I don't think he will ever have the power that he once had. I also genuinely believe that in the case of Diddy, people talk about the conspiracy with Diageo and his partnership with Ciroc.
The Ciroc deal, what happened? So Diddy in 2007 does the Ciroc deal, which is a partnership with Diageo to revive Ciroc vodka, taking a 50-50 profit sharing role rather than the standard endorsement. As brand manager and CMO, he elevated the brand from 40,000 to over 2 million cases a year, making it a premium product. Now keep in mind, if you don't know who Diageo is, Diageo owns everybody. Johnny Walker, Crown Royal, Smirnoff, Kettle One, Don Julio, Casamigos, Captain Morgan, Bailey Irish Cream, Guinness. They own all these companies. So Ciroc, hey, this is big. We're bringing Diddy and he's going to take it from 40,000 to 2 million. Profitable. This is great. Let's make some money together. 2013, De Leon Tequila co-ownership. Diddy and Diageo jointly acquired De Leon Tequila, making it a deeper investment relationship. May of 2023, Diddy sues Diageo.
Nobody was having a problem with eating caviar with him and taking his money. So I don't think that's fair. I think that RICO, you gotta have more than one name there. I just think that if you try and go up against liquor, oil, like all the, firearms, tobacco, all these things, you're gonna have some fucking problems. That's the real fucking Illuminati. And he went up against Diageo and said, I could do my own Ciroc. And they were like, oh yeah? They dropped the bomb on his ass.
It's important to say this, that Diddy had a partnership with them from 2007. He filed a lawsuit against them in 2023 where he said they treated his brand as an urban brand, didn't fund it, didn't give it correct marketing, essentially casting racial discrimination. I believe there's probably some truth to that. They also accused Diddy of creating a toxic work environment, being late to meetings, being hostile to people. I also believe that. Diddy then, interestingly enough, that happened in May 2023, yeah? And what Diddy did after that, in around August, was release all his copyrights to his artists from Bad Boy Entertainment. Ironic timing. Soon after, the Cassie video came out. Interesting timing. I understand where people are saying he's accusing them of racial discrimination against him, and Diddy is looking at them as people trying to hold him down. People are looking at him as the black man trying to make a space. And he said he released these copyrights because he wanted to empower black artists.
None of it's true. None of it's true. None of it's true. It's BS. They made it up.
Guys, it's BS. It's BS. It's BS. He's lying. He's full of it. He's chatting. He's just chatting. He did that because he knew he was hot. He wanted to get some good pub. He probably knew the video was on its way. When the feds, the FBI are after you, you know, if you know the Little Dirk situation, he was trying to run away the day before they got him. He booked 5 flights to confuse them. Trust me, these are not people. If you've watched any sort of gangster films, you can feel when they're onto you. He did that as PR and as a way to, I don't know, maybe to elude his tracks. So whether that conspiracy is true or not, I genuinely feel that Diddy, he wasn't a black liberator. And that conspiracy paints him like that. Perhaps they helped. There could be some truth to it, but that doesn't make him a good guy. It doesn't make him Nelson Mandela, and let's not paint him like that.
Diddy fell, but he wasn't the king, just a pawn. Now, the rest of the board is shifting. And the question isn't just who's next, it's how deep this goes. Welcome.
Guys, they just released the entire list of everybody that's partied with P. Diddy
and did God knows what. And the list is long, I'm telling you, it is extremely long, and some of these names surprise me, and it's heartbreaking. Serena Williams, David Beckham, Victoria Beckham, Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, Chris Brown, Rick Ross, Nicki Minaj, Tyler the Creator, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Kris Jenner, Lupita Nyong'o, Sean Penn, wow, Tyrese Gibson, Zendaya, Big Sean, Michael B. Jordan.
I get very frustrated at the conspiracy theories, if I'm being honest, because, like I said, there's probably some truth to it. I definitely believe there's some involved with Diageo and Cassie. It's all a bit too close together. But I do really mean give it a break, because he's not Nelson Mandela. He's not a Muhammad Ali. He's not a freedom fighter. All what he's saying about he's a black nationalist, he cares about black people. Did he care about black people when he was screaming at that guy and making the band?
Rough this weekend. I won. You get a vehicle home, possibly. You could possibly. I'm starving too. You know something? I want me a piece of cheesecake.
Did he care about black people when it came to Cassie? Did he? Ask yourself those questions. I think far too often we minimize and simplify these problems because having an adversarial opponent, so a clear opponent or someone or a big bad corporation, makes us not realize that Diddy is that big bad corporation. He handed out bad deals to Mace, Faith Evans, 112, sorry, I was gonna say 112. The dealing with Biggie. If you look at a lot of the artists that worked with Diddy, Diddy put his tentacles into every part of that artist's work. He was their manager, he was their writer, he was their producer. What does that mean? It means he took a percentage from each part of that too. Plus he's the record company.
Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
Come on, but all of a sudden he's this black this black liberator, this black person that is working hard and trying to break boundaries in an alcohol company. For a long time, I thought Diddy was the sole owner of Ciroc, by the way. I don't know if I was the only one, but I goes to say is that it's too often that celebrities, black celebrities, they get to a certain place and the behavior they display is hubris and contempt towards the black community. And when they're down, they're like, oh, I'm a black man being attacked. But when you were treating people worse than the slave master.
Put us out there like a bridge or something, like niggas walk all the way to Brooklyn, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really care how it associated. Whatever went through your mind was a mission that had to be done. All this psychology, that's ego. So the ego's in your way. So the ego made the decision, especially with a like you, when I helped get your ass out of a situation, and you looking at me in my face telling me you ain't gonna do something. I could see if I told you to go rob a bank, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing some cheesecake. You got that much ego? Go do your thing, man. Don't sit here and be talking about it, man.
No one said any, no, you wasn't a black man down then. And if you look into this study of black people, black bourgeoisie, when they get into power, when black people get success and finances, they often treat you worse than the white person. Sorry, Diddy is an example of that, not the latter. I don't want to hear it about Diageo. Even if there is truth to it, which I do think, I don't want to hear it. Give me a break.
I've just seen everything on Diddy and then now it's going on Jay. So people would insinuate in the streets that a telling. Let's just keep it real.
Oh, they think that Diddy's telling on Jay-Z to get the heat off him.
Come on. That's what
I don't think Diddy has anything to do with this lawyer.
This point here, I think another thing we can take away from the Diddy case is our obsession with celebrity downfall. There's this who's next obsession, which I kind of feel really came from the Jeffrey Epstein, not only scandal, but his list of all these celebrities, this hidden network of underground celebrities, this conspiracy. Hollywood is a secret satanic ritual. Cool, perhaps symbolically, maybe even literally, it's true. But we evade from the very real things that's going on right now. Enabling behavior, how we lust over image, power, and control. Hollywood, the music industry, celebrity seems to be this mix of about 3 to 4 people. People who abuse power and people People who will do anything for power, people who will sell themselves for anything for image and power, and people too naive to know the business that they got into. There was an article regarding the Diddy case that came out in June, I believe early June, and it speaks about a streamer who said, "This case is boring. Tell me when the other celebrities get exposed." I'm paraphrasing, you'll see the quote here, but that's what they said, and that to me echoes loud about the problem we have in society today. No matter the scandal, people still treat celebrities greater than thou. I'll give you one example. I'm sorry, I'm kind of breaking up the pacing of this, but it's important to say this. I talked about Chris Brown with my friends, and they said, some of them said, they will go on stage. They don't care if they've got a man. Their man should understand it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Look, I'm not here to police people on that, but it was treating Chris Brown like a once in a lifetime opportunity. If you've got a crush on someone, just say it. But to me, that exemplified hero worship, God worship of celebrities. And that's where they get into a place where they can abuse their power. And I think the reason we focus on who's next, the fall of celebrities, cool. Not just that, but the more salacious bit, was he a closeted gay? Does it even matter if he's abusing women and kids and other people and men too? Does it even matter? The baby oil, hilarious, wild, weird. Does it even matter if he's abusing people? The cock holding, not my thing, never be my thing, never fully understand it, but each to their own. We miss out a very real component.
Like, come on, that's fuck a Rico. That's a freako. He got a fucking freako.
Diddy got a freako.
He got a freako. No bond for that. It's the power, the bigger the money, the bigger the hunting. Always remember that. The bigger the money, the bigger the hunting. No bond for that? For being a freak? When all these fucking freaks out here?
And that's the enablers. The people around them that enable them. The people around them that don't say anything. You see, this thing exposed that very clearly. People knew, at the very least, that this is behavior he was doing. And at some point, with Cassie Ventura, a good example of that is where she reports that she was getting beaten up at the back of, I believe, a tour bus or a jet. She was getting beaten up, and what she said out loud was, "Can anybody see this? Was anybody seeing this?" No one got involved. And that's when your silence becomes complicit. And Diddy has been running amok for so long, you knew his side, if you were around him enough times, you knew. Doesn't mean like what people joke around with Meek Mill, or he had to be involved, but he definitely knew. And maybe he was silent, and maybe that's his greatest guilt, perhaps an even bigger guilt. People joke around with gigs. I think it's hilarious the gigs one. I ain't gonna lie, because people think because he linked up with him, that means that he was doing things with him or he was aware. It doesn't mean that. Honestly, with American and British artists, they may have linked up twice and that's it, and like each other's pictures. That might be the extent of their relationship. But the reason I bring that is far too often people pair people together and see them around each other and presume they're doing the same thing. Not necessarily, but if you are around someone a lot, you're aware of their bad habits, and you're aware that you should have spoke up at times. And that Cassie story brings that up. I only brought the gigs one up to say that how far people take it. There's a book that I read years ago, and I've reread it, Inspector Calls, and it talks about silence, enabling, and how you're complicit. Our inaction sometimes, when we know there are wrongings out here, our inaction is action. It's telling them that their behavior is acceptable. It's telling someone who believes they're above the law that their behavior is acceptable. And sometimes, yeah, there's times I can speak, in the ends it happens a lot. There's people who do wrong things, and if you call them out, they'll just cut you off. But at least you can stand out that you called them out, especially when you think it's gone so far against your moral code. Everyone's different. You don't want to police people. But when it gets to that level, when someone's getting beaten up at the back of the back of a jet, and no one's saying anything, you know it's gone too far. And no one wants to engage with that because you have to look inward. Even me writing that down, I thought of times where I knew someone did something wrong in ends or in certain environments, where I had to look at myself and think, yeah, I was silent, or I didn't call them out. I didn't want to police their behavior. I was scared of their reaction. You have to look inwards, and too often we give people with status, power, image, far too much of a carte blanche to do what they want to do. And often they're not called out till it's too late. R. Kelly was the same, Harvey Weinstein was the same, and there are many people, Bill Cosby as well, around who were the same.
Diddy was not at the top of the ring, okay? And it sounded like it was a Fed operation. And so it was a show trial because the Feds are never going to reveal the Feds that are in control of an operation. And the minute that they did not bring Christina Karam, the involvement that this woman have, apparently it's like having a Jeffrey Epstein trial and not like a public Jeffrey Epstein trial and not mentioning or bringing up Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, that's how you know it was a show trial. So this whole fake, oh my God, I can't believe you got away with it. Of course you got away with it. This was a Fed operation. That is my viewpoint. I am never going to change it. I think he's the Jeffrey Epstein of the hip hop world. He was doing what he was supposed to do and what he was told to do. And we're never going to get any information because now everyone's gotten their show trial and there are people on the streets that are pouring baby oil on top of themselves.
Another point I want to make is something Candace Owens said where she called this a show trial. And I think there is some truth to it. I can understand her standpoint, but I still, although that's an important point to make and an important point to understand, that there were people who were implicit in the Lil Rod scandal that I was curious why they wasn't named. It makes me wonder, were the Feds not just doing their due diligence? And people, they do often do their due diligence. There are people who want to come after people. But for them to go this far to do a show trial, to me, is quite weak. There must be a little bit more to it. Perhaps they were negligent. Perhaps there wasn't enough evidence. Perhaps there's more to come. But that to me is still the who's next mentality. They were just scared to take down the whole syndicate. They took down the mob. They took down the whole mob. So I don't know if it's just that. I don't know if they themselves are still building other cases. It's difficult to say. But what is clear to me is that we are missing the point of how Hollywood, the music industry, is a place that cultivates and creates and enables and emboldens power abusers. I guess the final point, or my closing argument, man, all those years at uni to just say that, wow. But my closing argument is, did the courts fail? Did the law fail? Did the Feds fail? Sort of. But as you've heard and as we've gone through, racketeering was extended. They maybe didn't do their due diligence with the other people that were involved. As I've said, and I'll say it again, the clips have said it, lawyers have said it, people who have been tried for racketeering. Racketeering rarely has one person involved if you're trying them for it. Very rare. I don't go as far as a show trial, but there's a thread of logic behind what Candace Owens is saying, although I do think perhaps there's more to come. But that's not the overall point here. That's not the overarching point. And I think too often we get lost in, is it Jay-Z? Is it Beyonce? Is it Will Smith? And not the truth of how this industry creates power abuses, where image and wealth is often people are taken advantage of. It's women, it's men, it's kids. It's not, I say it all the time, Hollywood's not a place for children. Justin Bieber is an example of that. I look at Will Smith and his kids. It's just terrible. It's just terrible to see sometimes. And I think when we're having these conversations, I'm not mad at the baby oil jokes. I'm not even mad at the gay jokes. But for that to be the centerpiece of it, we're lost. We're lost. We're just lost. As a people, genuinely. The conspiracy theories, again, there may be some truth in it. But Diddy is who he is, and he is raps. And the music industry's beloved sociopath. He was allowed to be a sociopath. He showed us the tendencies again and again. And when it got hot for him, when the feds were on him, you know what he did? What every sociopath did? Tried to clean up his image. Pretend as if things weren't going on. That apology to Cassie.
Behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
He didn't even, there was not a degree of contrition in his face. He looked like he was acting. He looked like, and most people would do what they would do in that scenario is lay low. He did anything but, because his ego wouldn't allow him. So painting him as any sort of hero to me, whether that's academics or Vlad showing some contempt towards Cassie. I don't even think that's the problem. That's a part of the problem. Just those reactions, people throwing baby oil themselves. Get a flipping grip. Get a grip. I don't even want to go too mad on them, but get a grip. I want to say this because it's very, very important to say, is that I think we can lose this, is these are real people.
And hibernation and seclusion, because there's so much around it and so much negativity, and everybody has an opinion. You know, we live in a time where nobody really looks at the facts. Everything is ideology and opinions, and you know, half of them are very negative, man. So I've been trying to really just, you know, I kind of went into seclusion. You know, I'm definitely dealing with some sort of slight depression or whatever. I lost 25 pounds. I stopped eating, stopped sleeping. So things just kind of getting back to normal for me a couple of weeks later.
That video that I seen of Cassie when she gets introduced to the Bad Boy team.
Focused and excited about the project. I wanted, you know, Cassie to, everybody to meet Cassie. Y'all know that's and hear the story directly from.
I just see a very young, eagle-eyed girl wanting to make it in the music business. The Punisher, who spoke on numerous platforms, he's promoting the book, by the way, but he spoke on numerous platforms about his mental health after the whole ordeal with the court case. I say this because they're real people. Real people. You watch in the UK, in about 10 years time, there's gonna be exposés about what happens in our music business and who's been taking advantage of who here. Listen, we can get so caught up in the names and the highlights that we forget we're talking about human beings, their damage, their trauma. I mean, I read somewhere that Cassie's friend said she had never taken drugs before. And for her to speak about being a drug addict, truth is stranger than fiction, man. That's just scary to see. And to see that image of her as a child, well, yeah, as a child. I'm 30 years old, I'm gonna be 31 soon. That, to me, 19 is a child. It's a child to me. When I was 19, I didn't think it at the time, but I was a child. And to see her taken advantage of the way she was, and for people to not factor in her age as well, she hasn't even, her full brain hasn't even fully developed. It's just very sad to see. Very sad to see. And it's important we say that. I don't want that to be lost in our conversation with this. Guys, I feel like I've spoke long enough. One more thing, actually. This point is like my hardest to describe. I often have an issue simplifying things. I genuinely believe Diddy, in terms of racketeering, he is not guilty of what we traditionally think of racketeering. But I think the Fed saw him as the enterprise, as the business, and that his enabling of it, or bringing it into his personal life, was a part of the network of illicit activity. But that's a bit loose of a definition. I do believe it was a bit of a loose definition. I really see the racketeer here, and it's a bit abstract, run with me, as Hollywood, celebrity, the music industry. They are in the business of people taking drugs, whether it's implicit or explicit. And that was the same with Diddy. They're in the business of trafficking, whether it's explicit or implicit. They're in the business of that. And I believe that's what the feds were trying, ideally, were trying to pin the nail on Diddy with that. Diddy is not a guy, he's not Nelson Mandela, he's not a hero. People say he's the Jeffrey Epstein. Well, Candace Owen called him the Jeffrey Epstein of the music business. I believe there's many of them running around. I think that's the problem. We're looking for a figurehead and we don't realize there's many of them running around. I really do believe that Hollywood, the music industry, not everyone, but the institution of celebrity is really, really the racketeer in this, but that ain't a thing in it, and that's a bit abstract. I hope it made sense, but hey, I don't want to go on for too long. Please do me a favor if you got this far. Thank you for watching all of this. Put into the comment section what you think. I love to hear your opinions. The more you lot engage with me, the more I'm able to engage with you back. Things you want to see me cover, put into the comments. Put into the comments. They won't all be this long. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And what's this underneath my nose? I'm out.
Where you put my bag I like when you like this, Daddy.
Yeah, where you put my bag
Daddy, I
at?
like when you
Oh, it's right here,
scrambling
it's right
and
here.
scraping for
No,
shit.
no.